Hey guys, so in this tutorial I'll be explaining how to teach your horse to be ridden with no tack on. There's a lot of different ways to do this, so you can kind of decide what's best for your horse, but in this video I'll be explaining specifically how to teach them to respond to a neck rope. Because I think when you're first starting out, it's the easiest way to be able to right away start riding your horse with no tack on, and then eventually I think you'd want to progress so that you could ride without the neck rope like I'm doing in this video. So the first and most important thing when you want to start doing this kind of thing is that your horse can be ridden calmly on a long rein, walk, trot, canter. So what I mean by that is that whether you'd be walking, trotting, or cantering, your horse can be going on a long rein without speeding up and without you having to hold them back. If your horse can't go relaxed on all three gaits in a long rein, then that's something that you have to address before you can even start thinking about riding your horse with no tack on. An exercise you can do if your horse is speeding up when you're letting them go on a long rein is to, instead of holding them back, just make them go in a circle and make the circle progressively smaller until they slow down. Once they've slowed down, then you make the circle progressively bigger. If they speed up again, then you make the circle smaller. And you do that until they stay at an even pace without you having to hold them back. And the key to actually making this exercise work is going to be really persistent with using it. So when you're riding your horse, as soon as they start to speed up, you don't wait, you just open your inside rein really wide and you bend them on a small circle. And very quickly they'll realize that as soon as we go on the circle, then they slow down. So then you won't really have to do as many circles, and you can make your circles bigger, and you can go on straight lines for longer without them speeding up. So the next thing you want to try and do when working up to training your horse to ride with no tack is to start using your reins less and less, because that's something that we want to take out of the equation. As you can see in all of these clips, I'm keeping a really light contact, almost a completely loose rein when I'm riding Oreo. And I'm doing that because I'm practicing not using my reins. And what I mean by that is that first I'm going to ask him with my body as if he already knew how to do all the things I wanted. And then if he didn't respond, then I'll put a really, really light contact on the rein and ask him with that. And then I'll increase it until he responds. Every time he responds a little bit faster or a little bit sharper than the last, then I praise a lot, because that's what I'm working towards. I'm working towards him responding to only my body weight and not my reins. So as you're practicing having your horse being relaxed under saddle, you can also start introducing them to the neck rope from the ground. So this is where we start to explain to them what the meaning and the basic cues of the neck rope are. So you have to be able to turn and you have to be able to stop. So that's what we're going to teach them first. In the first couple clips, you see me asking Violator to walk forward on the circle, and then I give a slight pressure on the neck rope and I ask him to bring his shoulders towards me as if I was asking him to turn. As soon as I feel him give on the pressure, then I give back. And then I just add a little bit more and a little bit more until he moves his shoulders over, and then I completely release and praise him. So I just kind of keep practicing that on both sides until I feel that he's really sensitive to the neck rope, and I only have to put a little tiny amount of pressure and he already knows how to quote-unquote turn. Then I'm basically going to do the same thing except for backing up, or which is also going to be used as stopping. So I teach them that when I put a little bit of pressure on the rope, he starts to go backwards. You really shouldn't be pulling on the rope, so you're just asking pressure release until they respond, and if they're really not responding, then you can use a whip in front of them and wave it until they go backwards, and then as soon as they take a step backwards, you stop and you praise. And you repeat that until they do 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps, etc. So then we're going to get into the saddle and we're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to try and practice what we did on the ground, which is turning and stopping and going backwards. The biggest thing at this stage of your horse's training is going to be able to recognize and to reward the tiniest attempts. For example, on the first day of you trying to do this in the saddle, your goal should be to get them to stop using just a neck rope even just once. Now that may not seem like a lot, but to your horse and in the long run, all those really little things are going to make a difference. There's no point in getting frustrated when you're trying to teach this. You can't force your horse to do anything with a neck rope, not that you'd want to. But it's really important to be really patient and persistent at the same time. That means that in the beginning, when you're teaching this, you're going to have to really reward everything they do. So as soon as they turn, you reward them. As soon as they stop, you reward them. And you do that over and over and over again until they become so sensitive to your cues. Once you kind of have the basics down, then it's up to you to find exercises that work for you to practice all of these things. I set up poles in the arena and I practice walking and then halting over them and then going from a trot and halting over the pole, then from a canter and things like that. And I practice lots of transitions, and then I also practice maybe small serpentines and stuff like that so that it stays fun and interesting for the horse. Even with Oreo, who's really well trained, tackless, I still practice all these things with him. When I warm up, I still practice walk, halt, stopping over a pole, really simple direction changes and things like that. He's not perfect and I'm not perfect, but when I'm working on these things with him, my goal is always to do less, to always do less and less and less. And so I practice and I try and do less. I try and use my neck rope less. I try and use only my body, and I just kind of play around with it. And by practicing all of these things a little bit every day, I mean, even if it's like 15 minutes, it's going to make a huge difference and you're going to see a lot of improvement. And the most important is to not think that your horse is ever finished. Even if you can go walk, trot, canter, and go over jumps in a neck rope, you can always teach them to be lighter, and you can always teach them to be more responsive. And that's what I love about this kind of training, is that I always have something to work on. I always have something to improve. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Go check out my other tutorials on my channel, and please subscribe.